What's up everybody? Hope you're all doing well. I'm sorry I missed Friday's video, but it was raining here in Los Angeles, which pretty much means that everyone starts panicking. So the lady and I decided to just stay in and do absolutely nothing all weekend. It was awesome. If y'all haven't done that recently, I recommend it. It's like they say in Calvin and Hobbes, there's never enough time to do all the nothing that you want. Which means, unfortunately, that we've got to get back to it because, oh boy, the Starfield drama is getting started early. I have a feeling we're going to be deep inside this one for a while, ladies and gents. Now, as many of you know, I prefer to avoid covering drama for the sake of drama because typically there's nothing to be gained from it and it usually bores me to tears. I am, of course, far too juvenile at heart to avoid it all the time because, well, sometimes it can be really fun. And other times, though far less frequently, there's some lessons that can be learned from it. To be honest, I'm not quite sure which category this latest industry Twitter spat falls into, so let's find out together. You might want to consider numbing your brain with a blunt or your preferred intoxicant before we go any further, as these days exposure to Twitter has been known to bore right-wing extremist-sized holes in the skull. At this point, even opening the Twitter app should probably come with a biohazard warning. Everybody ready? Alright, here we go, deep inside. It has got to be pretty tense for the corpos up in Bethesda Towers right about now. Poor guys. In just a little over a week, Starfield, their biggest launch since Fallout, is going to go down, and that means they're currently in all-hands-on-deck big dick defense mode. Can't really blame them for that, as the good corpo human meat grinder they are. Naturally, Bethesda is almost always at the center of a good number of controversies and human rights abuse trials. The most recent being the Doom Eternal soundtrack scandal, where they tried to blackball composer Mick Gordon completely out of the industry, and of course, who could forget the calculated disaster that was Redfall? How many active players does that have on Steam right now, guys? Ooh. So suffice to say, they've got quite a bit riding on Starfield. Now, in plain terms, they kinda need it to be the next Skyrim. Now, of course, they're far too large and far too evil for a Starfield flop to actually completely fuck them, but let's just say it won't be too much fun around the boardroom conference table if this fails to go off like fireworks on the 4th. And that's why, when over the weekend, former World of Warcraft and StarCraft dev Mark Kern tried shitting all over the Starfield title screen, our favorite fake nice guy, Pete Hines, Bethesda's head of publishing, was right there with the hands. Brace yourselves, here's the offending tweet in all its glory, along with the title screen he was referring to. The physiognomy of start screens. The start screen of a game can reveal a lot about how rushed the team was and how much pride they took in their work. Starfield's start screen either shows hasty shipping deadlines by a passionate team overworked, or a team that didn't care. Start screens are often done at the very end of development. Teams are too busy working on the core game. It's quite common for the start screen to completely change once the game is shipping or on patch 0. Teams that take pride want to put a good face forward and will often redo these just prior to the game going live. Physiognomy. Wow, dude. First things first, anyone starting a tweet about video games with a word like that is probably a fucking asshole. Secondly, if you're not an English major and don't know what the fuck that word means, it's basically a fancy way of saying judging a book by its cover. The actual wiki definition is the practice of assessing a person or object's character or personality from their outer appearance, especially the face. Now, according to Ku Klux Klan Grand Wizard Elon Musk, that tweet was seen by over 9 million people. So that fact alone, if accurate, already tells you pretty much everything you need to know about the motivations behind why it was tweeted in the first place. Pete Hines, one of the few people alive known to be suffering from a condition where his own cock is stuck firmly in his own mouth, blubbered out this predictable corpo clapback.
The development team designed what they wanted, and that's been our menu for years, and was one of the first things we settled on. Having an opinion is one thing. Questioning out a developer's care because you would have done it differently is highly unprofessional coming from another dev.
No shit. Now I think we can all agree that it was rather generous of Mr. Hines here to refer to Mark Kern as a dev, even with emphasized quotes, since the last thing of any consequence he worked on was decades ago. But all things considered, this isn't too surprising. Of course he's going to defend his people, that's his job. Naturally, this feisty bit of dick swinging by grown-ass men who should know better on the timeline brought all kinds of nonsense out of the woodwork, as it obviously was intended to do. You've got some people trying to make a real discussion out of it. Poor guys. Others just clout farming, got some trolls, and since it's Twitter, some people who are now likely going to go commit a hate crime as a result. You, dear viewers, being above all that type of petty nonsense, have instead come to me to hear the only correct take, as only I can offer. And that is this. Pete Hines is actually right on this one. Shock, I know, but let's break it down. And we must begin with Mark Kern. This is actually kind of sad to see from him, albeit rather predictable. For those of you who don't know, this dude was an ex-WoW dev nobody until the push for WoW Classic started gaining mainstream traction back in 2016 or so. As one of the lead devs for the original 2004 version of WoW, Mark Kern took it upon himself to help spearhead the movement for Blizzard to release a classic version of World of Warcraft, even going so far as to help print out and bring all the signatures of a petition to then Blizzard president Mike Morhaime. Now, at the time, he was hailed as a hero by the community, especially once Blizzard finally caved and announced they would, in fact, be acquiescing to their demands. But fast forward a few years, and it's sadly become far more clear why he did this. It was all just attention-seeking posturing. Well, maybe it's unfair of me to say all. I'm sure at least part of his enthusiasm was real, but his conduct in the years since and his association with weirdo, brain-broken shit like Gamergate has made it clear that this dude is basically just a clout shark always searching for the next scandal or hot take to engagement farm with. It's really pathetic. I was a fan of this guy for all the work he put into making classic WoW happen. While shit like Gamergate is actually a lot more nuanced and complex than most of the media would have you believe, someone who's just constantly doing performative, attention-seeking, spotlight-obsessed bullshit is not. And unfortunately, Mark Kern has revealed himself to be exactly that. However, we are the fair show in America, and it would be irresponsible and rather lazy of us to simply condemn his recent take based on that alone. When you're right, even if you're also kind of a douche, and when you're wrong, even if by all accounts you're also a decent person with serious commentary or inquiries trying to have a real conversation. Unfortunately for our boy Mark Kern here, he is both wrong and kind of a douche. Why? Well, it's actually really simple. My man here is talking about a fucking title screen for a game he has not played. In other words, he's whining about aesthetics, which is a discipline that's almost entirely subjective. As a former art school dork, I can tell you that one person's gorgeous is another person's fucking donkey. Now, you might be thinking, wait, Shanghai Pete, are you saying that there's no such thing as a title screen that could universally be considered bad? No, of course I'm not saying that, you fucking Goomba. What I'm saying is that critique of any type of art, including title screen design, that at least manages to clear the bar of base competency is going to eventually boil down to nothing but subjectivity. You can judge and logically critique the execution of something like a title screen or art style to the extent that it meets functionality requirements, but beyond that, your opinion on it is going to be just that, an opinion. Saying this looks ugly is not the same thing as saying this function is broken. And Mark Kern's criticism of Starfield's title screen, since he hasn't actually played the game yet, it's nothing more than just his opinion that it looks ugly. And no matter how you slice it, that's subjective. And presenting your subjective opinion as though it's a fact makes you a fucking douche, especially when you're just doing it for attention. And personally, I kind of agree with him. I don't think it looks great either. I also thought the Skyrim title screen sucked. I'm not a big fan of the Half-Life title screens either, for example. Those are still great games though, and while I think The Last of Us title screens are actually really cool, I don't like those games very much. But more importantly, who fucking cares? The idea that you can judge a game based on a screenshot of its title screen, unless it's some MS Paint abomination, is fucking ridiculous. And I think everybody knows that. This is just another reminder of a universal truth that I bring up all the time. Anything sufficiently popular enough, regardless of what it is, will be used by someone, somewhere, to grift and farm outrage. And in this case, that someone is a very sad man just looking for attention, who no one's cared about and hasn't actually done anything since he was making low-poly orcs 20 years ago. And what's interesting about it is, nothing. Like, guys, I'm sure there's going to be no shortage of shit to criticize Starfield about once we've actually been able to play it. But until then, there's no reason to make shit up unless you're doing what we all know this guy is. Now, if this is any indication of what the Starfield drama and clout farming scene is going to look like when it really ramps up, oh boy, I can't wait. Brace yourselves, guys. Things are about to get really fucking stupid.
Woke up, smoke up, blunt, then I pass out. Pass out. Woke up, what up, smoke up, blunt, then I'm back down. Back down. What? Yup, woke up, smoke up, blunt, then I pass out. Pass out. Woke up, what up, smoke up, blunt, then I